Hey, welcome back. I'm going to take you down into the hardwood forest here, which is mostly sugar maple. And because it's mostly sugar maple, it does stay fairly open. There are balsam fir, and there are some ash trees, and other various brush. There's a basswood right there in front of us. But for the most part, it's sugar maple. And for that reason, it's nice and walkable. And this is a trail that we use in the springtime, which is maple sugar season, when we tap the maple trees and make maple syrup. Some people wonder about what makes it maple sugaring season, and it all depends on the daytime and the nighttime temperature. In order to tap trees for maple sap, it has to be below freezing at night and above freezing during the day. So cold enough at night that things kind of freeze up and it develops a little bit of pressure, and then nice and warm and sunny during the day, you know, that kind of early spring, late winter kind of temperature. And then that pressure is kind of relieved as the sap is pushing up through the trunk of the tree up into the branches to prepare for springtime, for spring growth. So that's the pressure that you're kind of tapping into by tapping the tree. So we're coming along the ridgeline here. When it comes around to spring, we'll do some tapping footage, share that with you. Some of these are some small maple trees. You can see them here. All ages of trees back in here. And that's what's nice about this diverse forest like this. We're mostly in boreal forest, which means that the majority of the trees are conifers. Balsam firs and white spruce, some cedar trees you see every once in a while. But here we are at just a little bit of a ridge line down into the lowland, and it transitions from all the coniferous trees to almost entirely deciduous, almost entirely these hardwood trees, maple. There are red maple and sugar maple here, and also the ash trees. Some basswood. But if you look here and see how dark that is, that dark trunk there, that is the hallmark of a sugar maple. Kind of take you around here and you can see down the edge of this ridge, there are more and more of those sugar maple trees. There are a lot. We don't really tap too many. Sometimes as few as 10 or so, 10 or 15 trees, and we get plenty of sap. If we wanted to get really serious about it, we definitely could do a lot more. We could tap hundreds. This is an area where there is a lot of maple tapping. So, really, really nice. Lots of nice trees. These are healthy trees. If you look up, you can see in the canopy. One of the reasons I wanted to come back here, share this with you, is because we are definitely in the process of losing the canopy for the winter. So lots of nice color at this point, but not for long. We kind of get some wind at this time of year, and the wind takes the color off the trees fairly quickly. But that's all right. It's nice to have the change of seasons. Look at that. So what we're following right now, we're crunching our way along the maple leaves here, but as we work our way down along here, I'll just go through here. As we work our way down along here, we're following a stream that runs in the springtime during kind of the snow melt. And it works its way down into wetland down here. I'll show you a few things. I do not have appropriate footwear to take in the wetland, similar to last time, but I can get you close. And if you look closely, come around here, the highland of this property is an Esker of glacial deposit, and with that we have a lot of rock. And I like that. I like finding the rocks because we use them for retaining walls and to hold up the shoreline of the pond. So it's mostly covered right now by the leaves, but a lot of rock. Glacial moraine. 11,000 years ago, this was completely covered in ice. And as that ice melted and receded, it found its way to form what is now Lake Superior. It's starting to get wet now. Not going to go any farther than this. So you can see this is lowland. So down at the bottom end of the Esker, the highland, it turns into wetland, and it's more of an ash swamp sort of ecosystem with some marsh and a lot of kind of soft mosses and lichens, which is really nice environment for critters. We like the diversity of all the different animals that are here, but it's interesting to see with the change in topography, the varying species of trees. Some of these wetlands, there are a lot of cedar trees, and here it kind of changes from maple into mostly ash. So as you come back up, you see it change back into mostly maple. If I can find the trees here, there are a couple interesting ones to share with you. Let me come up through here. So we try not to modify the layout of this too much. I like it wild, and as much as we can, we keep it as is. So if you look here, it's not entirely clean. I can focus a little bit. So if you look around there, you can see there's some deadfall and a little bit that has, died and decomposed on the ground, and that forms habitat as well. So for the most part, I want to kind of leave this as it is. It's possible that this has always been like this. I don't see evidence as much. I mean, you can see there's a stump up there, but I don't see much evidence of logging in this particular area. And it's possible that many of these were just cut for firewood at some point. There are some good-sized maple trees, ash trees, and some very interesting, huge basswood trees. Some of our biggest trees are basswood. But the really, really gnarly bark there, those there, the gnarliest bark, those are the maple trees. This is a nice spot. So you can't really tell right now, but there are trails through here. A little bit hard to discern just because of the leaves, but a very nice place to walk around on the mossy rocks and even across the logs and everything. I think, and I know there's science that says this as well, it's good for the brain to go on kind of rough hiking trails, varying terrain, work your way along the rough ground and just kind of breathe that oxygenated air and just enjoy being out here. As you're navigating that, I know that it's good for the brain, brings about thoughts, think of creative things or maybe work through something that you're having a hard time with. And I think that's important. That's why it's nice that a lot of neighborhoods still have natural places like this. But I do feel very blessed, very fortunate to have this on our property. All right, so this is a cool thing that I can show you. Well, first, just look at this, how cool this is. Just these kind of fern, mossy rock kind of areas. A little bit difficult to see, but I just love seeing that because those rocks were deposited 10,000 years ago. And here they are. Sometimes we find piles of rocks that were clearly deliberately placed in, I'm guessing the original homesteader clearing land for farming after logging, but these are natural deposits and this is just so cool. When we dig deep we find a lot of rocks, big rocks, but even just finding these small deposits with moss growing on them, I mean, here these have been for thousands of years, just like this. This ecosystem has just been as it is for so long. All right, so this tree, I love these trees. Every time we find these, I just feel so happy. These are some of my favorite trees. This is a yellow birch. Look at how kind of ragged it looks. That's just how they are. Look at that. I'm gonna tell you what the black deposit is there, but look at that. That's so cool. Such a neat tree. All right, so check this out. This here, this is chaga. So if you're not familiar, chaga is a fungus, and there are cases where it will eventually affect the health of the tree. In our experience, it generally only affects a part of the tree, and the trees live kind of in symbiosis with it. So chaga, if you're not familiar, can be harvested from the tree, and it's extremely healthy, has many different health benefits. And what we do is we harvest it with gently with a hatchet that is only used for that purpose, and then we chop it up and dry the chunks and then we simmer it on the stove, mostly in the wintertime, but really any time of year, for its health benefits. Tastes really good. It's kind of an earthy, almost coffee kind of flavor. And my favorite thing to do is in the springtime when we are harvesting also maple sap, to simmer chaga in maple sap, and it tastes amazing. So you will find chaga in northern latitudes like this, mostly on birch trees. And here, whenever I find a yellow birch tree, I find chaga. I know that yellow birch versus paper birch trees, which are more common, yellow birch, I believe, is denser in sugars and different nutritional benefits and medicinal benefits, antioxidants and things. And so it's good that we find it on these yellow birch trees, because what the chaga is doing is it's kind of condensing all of that, the vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, all of that. And when you harvest it and simmer it and enjoy it, drink it like coffee. It's a tea. But anyway, when you have it, you benefit from all the nutrients in the tree. And when we're doing that, I'm always just thinking about how God placed these things here for us, knowing that we'd be here, knowing that we'd need that. And just amazing to think about. Over time, I'll share details on all the other medicinal foods that we find out here. But yellow birch tree, just a neat tree. If you look up, you can see that it's kind of lost its leaves, but that's all right. Really neat tree, and when we find them, we find chaga. We do not find them often, but when we do, we keep track of their whereabouts. Pretty cool rock there. Check this out. Nice rock. When you live in the woods, you kind of become a rock connoisseur. And then you keep track of where the good rocks are. Sometimes you place them around your clearing, your living area, so that you can enjoy them. Another thing that we find in the springtime here, if you are familiar with, we call them ramps, but they're kind of like a wild onion. I can't show them to you right now, but they look kind of like lilies of the valley, if you've seen that. So in the springtime, we'll find them, particularly out among these hard maple trees, these sugar maples. That just tends to be where we find them. And you can slice them up and use them like garlic or onion, like you would. And they're just great. Really nice flavor that is kind of like a hybrid of garlic and onion. We have them on pizza, and you can saute them and do all sorts of things with them, so they're really great. Wild onions, some people call them wild leeks, and we call them ramps. So that's the hardwood forest. Just to give you a feel of the different ecosystems that you have in a wilderness like this. It is actually more diverse than you would think. So up here in northern Minnesota, it is not only the boreal forest, which absolutely there is, with the lots of different kinds of coniferous trees, but also many deciduous and a lot of hard maple. We're kind of off trail now, so we'll navigate our way back. So there it is, hardwood forest. We're kind of perched on what's called a glacial esker, a deposit of sand and gravel that is probably hundreds of feet thick. And this is right on the ridgeline of that highland. And as this highland descends, lower and lower elevation eventually reaches Lake Superior. So this is literally the line that the glaciers followed as they receded and formed the Great Lakes. Here we go. Autumn in northern Minnesota, in the hardwoods. And we do really love the springtime. Completely different experience back here when things are just beginning to sprout. And we have quite a nice harvest of maple sap. And when we cook it down, we use only wood fire, and we cook it down outside. And the ratio, if you're not familiar, is 40-to-1. So it takes 40 gallons of maple sap to make a gallon of maple syrup. It is well worth it because there is nothing like maple syrup that you make yourself. So that's certainly a different season than we're experiencing right now, but something to look forward to. There's always the next thing to kind of think about what it will be like. And I love that. Part of being out here in the wilderness is having that experience of nature kind of taking its course through the seasons and thinking about what's coming next and what will it be like. So I hope you enjoyed walking around back here with me for just a few minutes. It was nice to look around, see how things are going. I get excited about springtime coming out here, but any time of year is nice, even in the wintertime, coming out here and figuring out the trails and snowshoeing and all of that. We don't get as much snow back here in the dense woods because the snow doesn't blow so much and accumulate. So it's pretty good hiking and snowshoeing, and even in the middle of the winter. So we'll get to do that too. So I hope you enjoyed this and things are great. I will catch you on the next one. God bless and take care.